launched to survive and defend the base.
The radar just lit up. And at that point, we were in an hour-long fight, just trying to kill whatever we could.
Come on, let's go.
Operations desk said, stand by, won't be able to talk to you. We're 1 minute to impact.
We had to basically dodge multiple pieces of red-hot shrapnel as they were falling through the sky as we were trying to land.
Rockets and explosions sound over Old Jerusalem and across Israel tonight.
This was not just a show. This was a mass wave designed to overwhelm defenses, destroy, kill, and attack.
Reporting from the ground in Jerusalem, I can see the Iron Dome protecting the city. There are explosions high in the atmosphere and people running for shelter.
It is a really dangerous game Iran was playing. And why they took that chance, you don't know. It was very risky.
It really started like every other night. Came into shift, got turnover. We really didn't have anything, and all our jets are kind of just sitting on the ground.
It was Saturday, so we got a steak. It was steak night. So bring the steak back, sit on the back porch, do like we always do. Nothing felt different through that period of time. But then, kind of as the sun was starting to set, I heard the top three. You guys need to go ahead and go, like right now.
So I'm sitting back, relaxing, having a good time. And he's like, Sato wants to launch the first 2 lines. I'm like, cool. Oh, that's me. And so I get up and I'm like, all right, I'll get my formation. So I run out. I'm running because I'm trying to find my formation.
This is when we start getting an idea that the scale that I expected in the most dangerous course of action of the enemy action was a 10 to 20% at best estimation of what we were about to face. I don't have enough missiles to target 180 one-way drones. I don't. For the ballistic missiles, we don't have capability against that as a fighter. And when you start looking at cruise missiles and everything else that's going to be used by Iran in this attack against Israel, how do we handle that? But we have a layered defense, and we have a game plan with our partners in the region.
So in a classic whatever, I decided to throw some war paint on. Painted my face. I took some like camo paint from my survival pack and freaking put like a Spartan thing on there, right? It felt like we're ready to go. We're gonna tear this up. We're gonna absolutely dominate. And I walked in with this crazy paint, and they're like, oh my God. I get the green light to take off, and the sun had already set, so it was dark, and then we're just off at it. So just another normal night mission, just like any other.
Started our normal launching of aircraft, and all of a sudden I see pilots coming out from their building towards aircraft with their bags, helmets, all that stuff. At that point, hit up Super on the radio and was like, hey, we got extra pilots coming out here. And that was when everything started kicking off and we had to scramble.
It comes over the radio that one of the jets that are hot-cocked need to go up. Pilots are out there, they're running out to the spot, throwing their stuff up in the seat. Kind of progressively as the night went on, they're calling for another line, calling for another line, calling for another line to get these jets up in the air.
They were like, second alert crew, go. And I was like, okay, we're going, it's time. And I think that's when the adrenaline started kicking in.
Guns, it's time to go. I was like, what, already? It's only been 30 minutes. And she's like, it's time to go.
The top three looking at us, and he's like, you're gonna go here. And he pointed at a spot at the map, and he said, go. That was it. That was our brief, and we went.
This clearly began anew, in a way, on October 7th. And when Hamas attacked Israel, everything changed in the region. Everything. First of all, people were so stunned, and I remember people saying, oh, that couldn't have happened because Israel is so good at this. It never would have happened. It couldn't possibly have happened. As soon as that happened, you knew the Israelis were going to go into Gaza and go in hard.
For the first few weeks, we're doing our defensive counter-air, and this is when the one-way attacks against U.S. and coalition forces begin. So you probably saw in the news over 100, over 120, over 140, starting from the end of October, now going through January. So we're starting to find out that we don't have the right tactics for this problem set.
We started getting our first air-to-air kills. At first slow, but then kind of increasing in the amount.
So now we have a data point that an F-15 can target something we didn't know we even could. So we're talking about a threat that's on the edge of weapon capability and at the edge of our ability to detect and track it.
So you had months and months of back and forth. It was first, Hamas is clearly attacking, then Israel goes into Gaza, then you see Hezbollah responding, then you see the Houthis in Yemen responding. It was almost impossible to keep track.
And then January 28th happens, and that's pretty emotional. 3 Americans died in Tower 22. That location fell under our wing. It's hard not to feel personally responsible in a way. We weren't overhead that location at that time, and then you realize that it only takes one.
But on April 1st, Israel launches into Syria and killed a senior IRGC commander, an Iranian senior IRGC commander, and another general as well. Iran said this was a consulate. Whether it was or not, it's unsure, but that's when Iran promised revenge. They would go directly after Israel. If Iran really gets through, if Iran really damages Israel, then the concern was all-out war.
And we were out there for a couple hours with no real calm about anything having actually happened, so we thought, all right, maybe it's like off and nothing's going down.
So we finish up on the tanker, and then Irish and Sonic, do an incredible job just as a flight lead. Now, they're not just running our formation, they're also running the entire air war. They were the mission commander for multiple assets, aircraft, people, nations. So they're busy.
I now have a 4-ship, which is my happy place. That is the killing formation of an F-15. You mean business if you have a 4-ship or greater. I have a 4-ship of F-15s in the north lane, we'll call it, and I have a 4-ship of F-16s getting established in the south lane. And my formation, we're gonna end up in the middle lane.
Meanwhile, we're seeing F-16s down in the south lane begin shooting. Obviously they got a drone swarm down there, they're getting after it. We finally get established in our lane that we were supposed to be in. And within just a minute, contact, and Diesel saying, drone there.
Irish and Voodoo make fun of me all the time because my TCC just became drone there. Just continually said just drone there in most of all my engagements. And so I just drone there.
Okay, where's there? Because I can't see where there is at this point in time. He's like, it's directly beneath you. And my instinctual reaction is just to roll left a little inverted and try to find it. And I was like, oh, that's right, I can't actually see them. There's no moon. It's completely dark. You can see the Milky Way. All the stars are out. I'm on Nogs. My Wizzo's on Nogs. We don't see it. And then I was like, all right, 2, you go find that thing. I'm going to point east and sanitize. And I point east. And I get a radar hit. I get a second radar hit. And I get a third one. Then Sonic cues in her targeting pod. She goes, that's a drone. She goes to the next radar track. That's a drone. And then the radar gets another and another. It fills. It's all attack drones. And that was my first feeling of dread that night. This was way more volume of an attack than I had expected.
So drones have really been a part of warfare since aviation. The first drone weapon systems were designed during World War I, and the first drone weapon systems used in combat were fielded in World War II. But it was really starting in the 1990s that drone warfare became a class of warfare unto itself.
This is one of many changes in warfare, right? Kind of likening one-way attack drones to what vehicle-borne IEDs and roadside IEDs were in the early 2000s, right? It was the newest cheap way for the enemy to bring the fight to us, and we just have to figure out ways to get after solving that problem, and then they move on to the next thing.
In terms of counter unmanned aerial system tactics, this is obviously an emerging threat. You probably haven't really heard about it much, at least on the outside world or the normal world, until this year, when the usage of them has ramped up dramatically.
So the Shahed 136 is an Iranian-designed drone that really exemplifies sort of the blurring lines between a drone and a loitering munition. They're fairly large in terms of what they do. They're powered by a piston-driven two-blade pusher prop, and they can cover 1,600 miles, which is significant. But they're also fairly slow, at around 115 miles per hour, and they fly at fairly low altitude, and that makes them very difficult to detect and target.
You have to find it first. Once you find it, you got to figure out what it is, and that's something that this particular threat, so a low, slow drone threat, looks to our systems a lot like a car. So check, is that a car? Nope, it's not a car, there's something airborne there. From there, we have to make sure it's not squawking. Once you've determined it's pointed in a hostile direction, it's not manned, it's not a car, it's not a helicopter, it's not anything friendly, then you determine, is this something that's hostile in this setting? And that chain of events leads up to, yes, bad guy, shoot it.
Maybe the most dangerous thing about the Shahed 136 is how cheap they are. Because they're so inexpensive, at around $50,000 a pop, you can produce a lot of them. And that gives you the ability to field them in large volumes for those saturation attacks where you're hoping to overwhelm an adversary's air defenses. And because you can field so many of them, it doesn't matter if they're easy to shoot down in some circumstances, because with enough volume, you'll never be able to shoot down enough.
The idea of throwing up drones that aren't as sophisticated as ours and just letting them launch and not knowing where they end up is pretty terrifying.
I was still kind of thinking, like, I don't really know if this is going to happen. This seems like kind of a crazy escalation for them to do what we thought they might.
As soon as I got off the tanker, I'm sitting off the wing watching my number 2 refuel and just listening up to the comm that's going on the fight frequency. I hear from the commander, drone there, Fox 3. And so that was my first indication of, like, this is happening, and this is happening a lot.
Throw the master arm switch, take the first shot, and I had a particular missile queued up on the jet. That thing come off, and like it just lit up the night. I'm talking massive plume of light on my NVGs. Everything turned bright, and this thing shoots off, and it's kind of stunning. The first time, and that was the first time I've shot an AMRAAM in anger. It was a little bit surreal. It's like, oh, okay. That just happened.
So from there, we're kind of like, all right, maybe it is happening kind of thing. And then within 5 minutes, on our radar scope popped up a track 1,000 feet off the ground.
Boards gets the first lock, and boy, he does exactly what he was taught and shot within about 20 seconds to get in that lock after getting the ID. And King and I were flying together. We were on the tanker, and it was like, man, that was probably it. We just missed it.
All right, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to be the first one in my formation, and I'm by far the least experienced. I'm going to give someone else a chance to tell me not to before I do it. So I was like, hey, we're targeted. No one said anything. I was like, all right, we get a little closer. Let it ride.
Yep, there goes the missile. All right, boys, here we go. And that just took about 45 minutes to shoot all of the missiles that we could off of that force ship before we had to come home out of missiles and try and get some more to go back up.
I would just say drone there, and then shoot. Missile would come off the rail. Drone destroyed. Next 8 engagements, and then it was like, wow, that happened fast.
I mean, it felt very just methodical. It was drone there, shoot. Weapon comes off, kill. Drone there, shoot. Weapon comes off, kill. Turn around, another drone, kill.
Biggest thing was deconfliction with where our number 2 was, because these missiles, you know, they are very capable, and depending on which one we shot, they could fight off, is what we kind of say, on a juicier target, which another Strike Eagle jet with really hot afterburners is definitely a juicier target.
I can't emphasize the how dangerous this mission set is. At times I'm 1,000 feet above the ground. Min safe altitude was 4,000 feet. I'm 3,000 feet below the altitude that's going to keep me alive because I can't see the ground. There's not enough ambient light.
We shot all of our missiles, and then we were like, well, what do you want to do? We got a bomb on board. You want to try and bomb one of these drones? We're like, yeah, let's do that.
30 plus years of total combined experience. It just seemed like we had the ability to try it. We had talked through the tactics of how that could work, and the weapon technically had the capability to do it through trigonometry. So stay in school, learn trig. Little SOHCAHTOA, never hurt anybody. It was a function of very rapidly deciding to do it, continuing to track the drone, which there's a massive tactical change of what needs to happen with the jet between those two types of weapons. And so I was aggressively maneuvering to get to the place where I could do that. Meanwhile, Diesel was tracking this very tiny, small point target. I'm talking a couple of pixels on a screen. You know, you're putting your crosshairs on that couple of pixels, and he's got to track it with his thumb.
We are out in the middle of nowhere. It is a big, wide desert, so we take a lot of time before we do this to just clear the area and make sure that there's no civilians in the area, there's no infrastructure in the area, there's no roads. And then we end up releasing a bomb on this drone and trying to laze it in, and it looked like it worked. It was great. We were really excited. This big explosion, and then here comes the drone right out the front of it. We're like, oh, man.
I wish it would have shacked it and taken it out. It would have been more legendary if that was the case. Yeah, we missed. Okay. Not going to do that again. In fact, Irish said that over the radio. He's like, you guys aren't doing that again. Which we didn't. So there you go.
So the idea of trying to hit one of these drones with a bomb might sound absolutely insane, but there is historical precedent for it. In fact, the Strike Eagle's first ever air-to-air kill was scored with a 2,000-pound laser-guided bomb. A Strike Eagle was coming up on a group of Iraqi Hind attack helicopters that were depositing troops around a special operations group. And they knew that they were a bit too far out at their low altitude to hit that helicopter with a Sidewinder missile. So instead, they decided to gain some altitude and lob a 2,000-pound bomb at it, hoping to hit the helicopter on the ground while it was deploying troops. But as soon as they released the weapon, the helicopter took off. And they assumed it was a missed shot, but that weapons systems officer kept the laser designator on the helicopter, and they managed to hit that helicopter while it was airborne and scored the Strike Eagle's first air-to-air kill.
Between all the other airplanes, that got attempted 3 times that night. It didn't work, so we stopped doing it. We got a close miss, depending on who you ask, for that portion of it, but that was really cool.
We were walking out, and that's when the first shots were fired, and I think that was by some F-16s. We're like, oh, so this is happening, and about the time it took from us to like learn that information, to get our stuff, to walk, to actually step, to start getting to the jets and getting our process done, I think the missiles were just flying off the rails at that point.
So we immediately start heading back down to what was a very, very busy lane. They said, hey, we have 1 missile left between like 3 jets and 90K of gas. If you have missiles, I need you to come down here.
We'll be right there.
We'll be right there.
Another horde of drones was coming our way. I need to use her missiles right now, so I call her down into the lane, and as soon as she turns hot down in the lane, we start directively targeting her to very specific points and drones, and she just starts shooting away. She takes 3 out in that first initial volley.
We put our butts on the line because we got down to a very low gas state, to the point where we would have been landing somewhere else except for the base we came from, in a country I really did not want to land in. And I just remember feeling a lot of relief when we hooked up and we started getting gas, and I was like, okay, we're good.
So after we had finished shooting, I had 1 hung missile, my wingman had 2 hung missiles. We started flowing back out to go back home. And I see a light on the horizon. I'm not quite sure what it is. There are some some factor threats that are in the general vicinity, but none that really would be a factor to us. And then I see it burn out right about co-altitude with us.
It was like, holy crap, we're out of weapons. I don't want to take any more gas off the tanker. I think the best thing we can do is try and get home as quick as we can. We're very far to the north. And so as we're coming back home with our 2-ship, I start picking up flashes in my NVGs out to the left.
We lean away from that threat, and then I see another one on the horizon, another orange dot, and then that burns out, and another. And then all of a sudden, the sky is lighting up with these orange boosters on the horizon. It's about that time that I hear the comm from the backseat. He goes, "Dude, look up."
Rowdy and I are both looking back at the horizon, and it just looked like Iran was glowing red.
And I try and count these missiles because I'm initially thinking, wow, Intel's going to want to know about this. And I start counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I get to 13, and I had to stop because they were coming up so quick. The missiles, most of them are intercepted. And as it turns out, just based on where we were in the geometry of the shots, the intercepts were happening directly over my 2-ship. Bud Lightsky keys the radio as we're now watching all of these interceptors and missiles fly at each other, and they get to about here, and he keys the radio and goes, "Man, I do not want to be here right now."
And you can see all these like flaming pieces of debris that are like just bright green in your night vision goggles coming down in front of the jet, around the jet.
It's a 360-degree umbrella of burning debris falling around the airplanes as you're flying, and there's no clear way out.
You're recognizing, all right, we're gonna like fly through all of this. We didn't just fence out. We're not just about to land and then go home and eat dinner, you know? But you did just see 70,000 feet above you, probably something explode into a million pieces, and gravity's obviously gonna take that into your flight path. So there wasn't really a whole lot we could do to avoid it. It's just like,
you don't really process how the night was until about 6 months out. And it took me a lot of time because I was genuinely scared when I was seeing flaming balls of debris from space that were falling at points what I can only estimate 15 to 20 miles in front of the jet, of my jet, and using avoiding action to maneuver my jet away from it.
This was the new existential experience for me because it's a country attacking another country, and they haven't done that in over 45 years directly. I don't know what the U.S. and the coalition is going to do. I don't know what Iran is targeting. They're shooting towards my base where I've got the 494th and the 335th, and quite frankly, I didn't know what the world order was going to look like when I landed. I didn't really have time to process that I just shot every missile on the airplane and we cleaned off the entire formation because there was a lot of other things going on that night that just added to the craziness of what 13 April was.
We pull up and like I would say like the look on everybody's face when we pull up, we're like, we have no missiles. We have shot all missiles on our airplane. You also dropped a bomb, like this is crazy. And so, but they're also engaged, right? They're like, cool, so that's the scenario. I need to put fuel and weapons on this airplane, and they just jump into action.
Now, an integrated combat turn is as close as you'll get to a Formula One pit stop in the military world as you're likely to find. The idea is to recover an aircraft, refuel it, rearm it, inspect it, maybe even give it some light maintenance, and turn it around and get it right back into the fight as quickly as you possibly can.
Well, you're catching a jet, you're refueling a jet, you're putting new missiles on a jet. Home station, if you ever sit out there and watch a fuel truck, they take way longer than 30 minutes, I can tell you that.
Normally for an ICT, one engine shuts down. That night, it was just everything was happening so fast. They had to get it right back up in the air, so dual engine running ICT, which was the first one I've ever seen.
3 different entities working together. You know, you got your crew chiefs, making sure that they're on comms with the air crew, making sure that the jet's still good to go. You got POL fuel in the truck, while you got another crew chief making sure everything's safe there. And then you got weapons moving around. So it looks like a bunch of ants trying to protect the fortress.
Just knowing when to get out of the way so other people can work is also a very important step, especially in ICTs.
They did it in record time, turning a Strike Eagle around in 32 minutes. That is basically how long it takes to refuel the Strike Eagle, meaning everything was done in the amount of time it took to get the fuel into that aircraft. And to do that in the middle of debris falling all around you is an absolutely heroic effort.
And then they start basically hand loading the next missiles. And it was right at about that moment that I kind of see a flash up above me on the right side. And I'm like, Voodoo, what was that? And we look up, and then there's just a lot of explosions airborne, a lot of debris coming down.
And FIFA in my back seat, he's like, yo, what the hell is that? It's like, what? And we look over to our right, and it's just all the air defense systems going off.
One of the weapons guys kind of pointed off into the distance. And so we all kind of like turn and look, and you could see the Patriot systems, all the stuff that was supposed to be defending our base, was going off and blowing up the drones and stuff in the sky.
The base goes into alarm red, and so there's a good amount of people that just run, right? That's the training, is go to the bunker when you hear alarm red.
Oh, it's an alarm red. Everyone's running to the bunkers right now. Like, I got 1.5 engines right now. We are not going anywhere.
There's the fight or flight, right? And I'd say that everybody on the ground that night wanted to fight.
So these guys have totally disregarded their safety, specifically because the mission dictates it. And they were out there, and they knew the risks, and they did it anyway because that's what they knew was the right thing to do.
And then we hear over the radio, Voodoo, you will arm up, take off, and you will defend the base.
Black Panthers on the net, this is your commander. Execute, fight the base. Alarm red means fight. Get the jets armed and get them airborne and then get to the bunker. Do you understand? 7-1 copies. 7-2.
Now we're all super amped up on that kind of thing because he just quashed any ideas of like, we're getting out of here for our own safety. It's like, we're doing the job we were sent here to do, and that is to protect the people that we can.
We had 2 jets coming in broke, 2 jets on the ICT pad. The other flight line expeditors were kind of having to cover for that too, and they were all over the place. So Sierra Ramp had no leadership out there, if you will. I asked Captain, do you need somebody out at Sierra Ramp? He said yes. We went out to where we parked the vehicles. We found one with keys in the vehicle, and I took it, and we just took off.
And we don't know whose it is. He hops in the driver's seat, I hop in the passenger seat, and I'm pretty sure you could see clutch smoke from all the way where we were at the bunker, all the way down to Sierra Row, just like 1.5 miles out. So that truck's probably on its last legs.
Myself and Sonic go into the bunker, and you can hear the explosions over the base. And at this point, someone has a cell phone, and I asked him if that was calling top 3. So yeah, it's calling top 3. So I grabbed the phone. Is there an aircraft? And he said yes. And I was like, can maintenance arm it? Yes. So I go back into the bunker. I'm like, Sonic, we gotta go.
We're not asking for permission to leave, brother. We are leaving now. I see Blood and Batman. They're off the deck. It looks like they're racing these missiles and this ADA down the runway. And they break off to the right, and he pulls that afterburner a little bit early, and it just goes dark. And there's a missile that goes right under him. I was like, I think Batman just got schwacked. We have our red flashing beacons, and so I finally see the flashing pull off in a way. I was like, oh no, they're fine, they're right there. Sweet, now it's our turn. So we smack it into max afterburner. We get off the deck, get the gear in, and again, it's the same thing. You're looking left and right, and you're chasing and being chased by this ADA, all this defense going on. It was 26 minutes from walking out the door to the gear in the well, so it was really, really quick. And it was not the intention for us to go fast. We were walking out to that jet to take off, normal.
I look over to my left, I see jets taking off. I see another massive base defense launch out towards the east. While the jet's taking off, I see them crack their power and stay low until they could make sure they weren't the ones being targeted. I could see them snap back and quick climb off into the distance, and myself and Sonic get to the jet.
We got them started up and did our checks, just quick little, right? So they got their green light.
Get the minimum essential items we need to just at least take off. I was like, brother, go back to the bunker. You're good. Like, we're going to be good. And he said, nope, I'm not leaving you. I'm not unplugging until you're taxiing, because if something happens to you in that airplane, I'm going to get you out. That was Senior Airman Fear.
From there, we sent them off to EOR to go get armed up.
Within 20 minutes from takeoff, I'm out of missiles a second time. And I have another hung missile. I encountered a wave of confirmed at least 20 one-way attack drones. I'm able to engage 2. We're starting to have fairly substantial system malfunctions. We're out of options, and it's just myself and Sonic. I'm pulling back, I'm retrograding forces, I'm restructuring what we call a standardization fence. I need to bring people back. We need to do everything in our power, or at least try to get another kill. I attempt a strafing pass, which is a very dangerous maneuver, especially at night. It's actually killed quite a few Strike Eagle aviators in the past. I can't see it, so she's cueing the targeting pod, and I can see the laser through my night vision goggles, and she's manually tracking this thing, just trying to keep the laser on it because it's an air-to-ground targeting pod. We are inventing procedures, if you will, and we roll in, shoot about 200 rounds of 20 mic, but it was terrifying. It was a black hole. Can't see anything. All I see is a laser in my night vision goggles and my altitude. And I recover the aircraft, and I was like, Sonic, we're gonna die if we keep doing stuff like that.
If there's any moment that night that actually made me stop, we're trying to land and there's nobody in the tower, so we can't, nobody's talking to us, and so we're kind of trying to figure out, we're just gonna land on the runway despite no clearance to do it. As we're doing that, we're talking to our operations desk that runs just F-15s. Said, stand by, won't be able to talk to you. We're 1 minute to impact.
And we're just like, what is going on? Because we've been completely locked out of it. We've been in our own little world shooting drones down, not realizing what exactly was happening.
And the entire comm chain went quiet. And we're all just kind of looking out, waiting, watching. This is something that I was not 100% mentally prepared for. The shooting, I was prepared for that. Coming back and your base is under attack and you have extremely low gas and you just have to land or make a decision to go somewhere else and land, that's a gut check. And that is a gut check that I was luckily able to make in that moment of, we're gonna sit here for about 10 minutes and we're gonna then just land at our own risk if we have to put the jets back on the ground because we're not ejecting out here tonight. 45 seconds goes by, a minute goes by, 2 minutes go by. Okay, I think we're okay.
And of course, like once we landed, we looked at our phones and it was on international media. Like it was all over the place. Plus multiple messages from my wife asking if I was okay.
We slow down and we just look west, and now I can see the Iron Dome. And that was heartbreaking in that moment. I remember talking with her, did we do enough? I had no idea if we were successful. Did we do everything? Should I have tried more gunning passes? Should I have tried to do more? Did I fail in my mission command role? Where did we mess up that base defenses are going off still to the west? So we just orbit and watch for probably 30 minutes, just waiting. Probably not really wanting to land because now you have to face the news.
I think we landed at 3 or 4 in the morning, and it wasn't until we landed and got on the ground that we were finally like, whew, holy shit, that just happened.
As the sun came up, it looked like a ball of yarn of like missile trails. So as all that smoke had kind of risen, as it got hotter and hotter, it was just like roadways and intertwining things of just all these smoke trails, and it was for miles and miles in front of us as the sun was coming up straight in our face. And so Fief and I are like, that's a lot. So you could get direct feedback as to the work you did.
I remember getting back, it felt like it took forever, and then we landed, and I think I could have just sat on the ground for a little bit, truly. I mean, just looking at the jet, how bare it was. Just with that one missile left on the rails, I was like, dude, we just did that.
Yeah, leaving the ground with 8 missiles and looking back and just seeing one, and I'm like, oh.
And that one wasn't even our fault. That one was just didn't want to cooperate that night.
It was amazing.
Nobody ever goes the extra mile for an intellectual stimulus. It's always the heart. My friends are out there. My brothers and sisters in arms, right? They've trained with me, they fought with me. I've had lunches and dinners with them. I've been to the gym with them. We've had arguments and we've had fights and we've had things happen at home, and like we've become very close. This is not even a question of what needs to be done. It needs to be done.
I don't think I really processed, wow, I just shot every missile off of a Strike Eagle, and oh, by the way, always told me growing up that you were never going to load 8 missiles onto a Strike Eagle because that's not our primary mission. And here we are, and we shot them all off on the first night.
300 weapons were fired at a target band. 6 of them hit. No one died.
We got to be part of a thing that was meaningful and had an impact and prevented an escalation.
It's only when I got back that we got a call from somebody that was actually in Israel, and he said, "Thank you guys for your help. You have no idea how much you helped us and how many lives that you ended up saving." And that's kind of when it hit me of like, this is way, way bigger than me just shooting missiles at drones. This is defense of our coalition partners.